Now, whatever happens in the general election, the odds are that you are going to be very heavily taxed, and therefore many Britons are thinking about how they can make a little money out of the general election. I am delighted to be joined by Sam Rosbottom, who is a spokesman for Betfair, the bookmaker and the betting exchange. And we're going to talk about gambling on this election. Sam, since the general election's been announced, it was announced yesterday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, just after 5. Give us an idea of what happened in the betting markets.
Well, as you can imagine, when there's any sort of speculation down at Westminster, the political markets on the Betfair exchange go into overdrive. And in the last 24 hours, it's understandable that they've been completely red hot. I can actually tell you that in the last 24 hours, £1.35 million has been wagered on the UK political markets on the exchange. A lot of that going in favour for Labour. The punters were really on it yesterday, to be completely honest with you. We were watching the markets in the office and we were watching our which month will the election take place markets, and all of a sudden July races into odds on at 9:30. So immediately then it's battle stations. Something's going on in Westminster. And since then, the markets on overall majority, most seats have been absolutely red hot.
And give us, I want to get onto this exciting board in a moment, but give us an idea of political betting in the UK, because it is a growth area, but it's still overall, I mean, you say 1.3 million, that's probably what you do on a sort of fairly standard horse race, isn't it, on the exchange? What
we're seeing is political betting is incredibly popular. Back in 2019, around £50 million was wagered on the general election back then. 4 years ago, the US election became the world's biggest single betting event. £1.7 billion was traded on that market, on the outcome of who will be the next president. So while the UK politics is big, US is a different beast altogether, but we've got 6 weeks to go until the country goes to the polls. So far on our UK general election markets, £9.5 million has been wagered. I mentioned back in 2019, that figure went up to 50 million. We're anticipating that, this time round it's going to be as popular, if not even more popular.
Okay, well, let's have a look at this board then. Give us a rundown of what it's telling us.
So, looking at one of our more popular markets, the overall majority market, Labour are incredibly short at 2 to 9. In the past 24 hours, we've taken around £200,000 on that outcome alone. But interestingly, what we're seeing is while the majority of the money on that market is in favour of Labour, we've actually taken more bets since yesterday morning on a no overall majority outcome, which at the minute is 11 to 2. When Rishi Sunak stood outside Downing Street yesterday and confirmed the July the 4th election, that was 17 to 2. So the odds are coming in ever so slightly on a no overall majority. We're seeing that gain some momentum, but as things stand, it is Labour who completely dominate the betting odds.
Can you tell us what happened while the speech was going on? Because it was obviously a disastrous speech in terms of optics and so on. Rishi Sunak being rained upon, the din from Steve Bray's blaring out D-Ream. Did you see a drift away from the Tories? Did people think, look at this is hopeless?
To be completely honest with you, the speech probably epitomised the trend that we've been seeing over the past 12 months, maybe even longer, that the Conservatives are completely on the drift. It's been a terrible 12 months for Rishi Sunak's party, by-election defeats, local election dismay. The Conservatives, even though they hold a very, very strong majority after that 2019 election, they're now 33 to 1 to keep that and win a majority in July.
And given that on Betfair Exchange you can back and you can lay, I'm not in the pay of Betfair, I should make this clear, but you can back and you can lay, backing the Tories at 33 to 1 might be quite an interesting proposition. There might be some value there, because even though they almost certainly won't win, 33 to 1, things might tighten up as the election goes on. You can see them coming in, that price coming in.
Well, like you said, with the Betfair Exchange, the world's biggest peer-to-peer betting platform, there are two ways to bet. Obviously, you can back on a result to happen, and you can bet on a result not to happen. That's obviously back and lay. So punters may be looking at this as an opportunity to say, Labour are incredibly short at the minute at 2 to 11, roughly an 82% chance. We've got 6 weeks to go. Anything can happen, like we know in politics. Could the value be elsewhere? That's where some shrewd punters may be looking to lay Labour. However, like I said, we are seeing small momentum gather for no overall majority, but the Conservative price for a majority has been sort of fluctuating between around 20 to 1 and 40 to 1. But at the minute, they're in there at 33 to 1. Looking at the most seats market as well, one of our more popular markets available.
Yes, this is down here on your board, isn't it?
This is a different market we've got, actually.
Okay.
So just on most seats, again, it's a very similar story. Labour absolutely dominating there, around 1 to 14 to win the most seats.
Right.
The Conservatives around 16 to 1. So pretty bleak if you're the Prime Minister looking at the Betfair Exchange. Even bleaker when you look at some of the other markets that we have available, such as how many seats will the Tories lose at the next election. Now, during the Tory conference last year, for them to lose an incredible 201 or more seats, they were 4 to 1. That price has completely crashed, and they are now odds on to lose that incredible amount at 4 to 6. So one-way traffic very much on that market, and the punters are backing a Tory annihilation.
Right. And so tell us about, so here, what are we seeing on the board here? We're seeing no losses.
No losses, around
289
to 1 for there to be no Tory seat losses
Not going to happen.
at the election. It doesn't need me to tell you that that's looking very unlikely.
Yeah.
For them to lose between 1 to 50, that's around 41 to 1, 51 to 100, around 11 to 1. And then the odds get a little bit shorter as those seat losses increase. Again, punters really anticipating that this is going to be a disastrous night on July the 4th for the Tories.
You mentioned how much money was bet on the US election 4 years ago. Can you give us an idea of how that market's shaping up?
Yeah, so currently there's around £36 million wagered on the US election markets we have on the Betfair Exchange. Trump recently has just gone the odds-on favourite. Around 40% of the money on that market has been in favour of Donald Trump. What we're seeing at the minute is a bit of a trend, and we're coining it Teflon Trump. Whenever we see headlines, whenever he's in court, whenever there's negative press around Donald Trump, the punters seem to back him more. Yeah. So it's obviously November's going to be a big month for the US, for the world, and for the political betting markets on the Betfair Exchange. And we've got a long time between now and then, but that's going to be another really popular one.
And the vice presidential markets, vice presidential nominee markets. I talk about this because I wrote a piece about this last week, and I have an interest that I should declare.
I mean, there's a lot of chopping and changing in that market, as I'm sure you can imagine. I suppose really it depends on who turns up next to Donald Trump every other day, really, doesn't it? At various fundraising events, we've seen Nikki Haley come out in support of him recently as well. She's been a mover in that market.
Yes.
But really, really interesting. Obviously, a long way to go until November.
Doug Burgum, I believe, is current favourite on the exchange. I looked just before I came in because I bet on JD Vance at 40 to 1, which was a good bet, but I don't think he's going to get it. Sam, thank you very, very much for coming into The Spectator, and thank you for bringing this amazing board.